Well, folks, I decided to come out here and do the Friday fishing forecast for this weekend. And I'm doing a little bit of fishing, doing a little bit of scouting. It's not as windy as I thought it was going to be today. Today's Thursday, and it's just not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I'm out here looking. I was going to inshore fish actually, but it's actually pretty nice out here. So I came out here, actually found this spot. I came off plane and just started to idle around, and I was doing something else, looking at my phone, and then it popped up on the screen that looked like there was some rocks. So I stopped here and I'm dropping baits, and I'm getting bit immediately. I just can't get them to like actually commit to it. So I'm changing up the way I'm hooking the baits on the Huggy. I might change the style jig too, just to see if that makes a difference, because sometimes it does. So I'm going to continue to try some different things and see what we can do. So the last couple of times I hooked them in the top of the head. I hooked the last one in the tail, but this one I'm going to hook in the belly and see what happens. Well, what I did is I actually dropped down a Stewie jig. I broke off on the Huggy, so I dropped down the Stewie just to see if that would change it up and make him bite it better, but I haven't got a bite. It's weird how sometimes the style of jig will make a difference, and that's when you're fishing by yourself. It makes it a little bit harder because you don't have that extra person or those extra people to try out different things. So you got to kind of go through the progression of things and see what's working and what's not working. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this bait up, I'm going to hook it a little bit differently, send it back down. If I don't get bit, then I'm changing back to a Huggy. I have seen where color doesn't make a difference, but the style jig has made a difference before, and a lot of my buddies are telling me that's exactly what they're finding with like using a Huggy or using a slacker, or even using a Stewie jig. Sometimes it does make a difference. So changing it up, and I preach that a lot, is how important it is to change up your presentation until you can figure out the pattern. Now I know that I was dropping down that Huggy and the bite was instant as soon as it got to the bottom. So I'm going to try this one more time with the Stewie. If I don't get bit, then I'm going to go back to the Huggy and see if I can get it changed up a little bit. Well, I thought I was hung on the bottom, but it's actually a fish. See, it's starting to establish a pattern is key. That's the biggest thing for me, is establishing pattern to figure out what's going on. And then you catch fish like this, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. So now I've got this pattern down. Caught them on a different color. I like to think of this as a crab, like a crab color, purple and sand. But can't complain about that fish. So now that I'm establishing a pattern and getting an understanding of how these fish want these baits, I know that they want the Huggy jig. It's weird. I think jig style does make a difference. I don't think color makes a difference, because I've sent down hot pink, I've sent down orange and purple, and I just sent down the purple and tan, and it just doesn't seem to make a difference. But I actually thought I was hung up on that fish, and I felt the move a little bit. Oh no, that's definitely a fish. Oh. Well, I just got broke off, and I'm using our 20-pound leader. I like to use light leader. That's just what I like to do. Yes, I get broken off, but at the same time I get more bites. But that's the other reason too, is I tie on such a long leader. I used to not to do that, but after watching Chad do it so much, now I do at least 3 pulls of leader, at least, sometimes 4, just to have a long leader. So if I do get broken off, I'm not having to tie a complete leader back on. So if I do get broken off, I can tie on 3 or 4 times at least before I have to put on a new leader. So I check my line, make sure I don't have any frays. I'm good. Retie and send it back down. that fish I just lost felt like a good fish. I'm trying to get them off the bottom to get them away from whatever's down there. And I think I just did with this one. Yep. There you go. It's amazing how hard these fish fight. I had to try another color. This is purple, limerita, and white. I don't think color, as I tell a lot of people, color doesn't seem to make a difference. It's a style jig. But as soon as that bait's getting down there, they're on it. We were about an hour away from a major feeding time, so I didn't get out here until after 10 o'clock, which if there's times that I'm fishing and I know that I've got a short period of time that I can get out and fish, then I definitely will work around the minor or major. And I saw that the major was from 12:40 to 2:40 today, so I said, well, I won't get a late start, or I won't get an early start, get a late start, get out there, catch bait, get set up and start fishing before that major. And the bite's actually pretty good. Well, I got broke off again, so I'm going to another color. But what I'm doing is, again, I'm feeling my line. There's a ledge down there, and I think they're running along the ledge, and I can't stop them. But anyway, how I like to do a perfection loop. So an overhand knot just like this. Then I take it and take the tag in and go through the eye of the jig, and then take that tag in and go through that opening, that loop. And then I go twice, once, twice, and then back through the loop. And then tighten it down and break it off, or trim it off. And there's a perfection loop just like this. Now I used to cut my line with my teeth, but one day when I was a guide, I chipped this tooth right here. And when I did it, I used to cut 100-pound lead. My parents were always like, quit biting the line, you're gonna break your teeth. Nah. Well, one day I was on a trip and I was biting line and I felt it pop. And I'm like, oh God. And I looked at my client and I said, is my tooth chipped? And he said, yeah. Well, it was chipped like a horseshoe. So I had this horseshoe style opening in my front tooth, and oh, I had to go get it fixed immediately, because that's, I can't have that. So I got it fixed, and I got it fixed like 2 more times. So it ended up costing me almost $2,000 when it was all said and done. So if you bite your fishing line with your teeth, I highly recommend to stop. Let's get back to fishing. Some of his tail. He's closer. As I've stated before, establishing that pattern is key. You establish a pattern, you can get on these fish and get on them with ease. Now what I'm using is our 7'6" red bone rod with a Penn Battle 3 and 10-pound braid line with our 20-pound leader. You can buy everything that I'm using on TampaBayFishingChannel.com. It's right there on our online store, or you can come into our store. This one's not as big, but it's a fish, right? All fish are good fish. Some are just bigger than others. My good friend Tommy Z used to say. Oh, there's a nice snapper. Look at that one. Look at that. Catching the gag grouper, mangrove snapper. Nice mangrove snapper. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and get in the Friday fishing forecast, talk about what we have in store for this weekend. It looks like it's going to be a decent weekend. The winds have jumped up a little bit on Saturday, not horrible. But anyway, let's get into the Friday fishing forecast, talk about the solunar and tides, and see what we have in store. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get into the tides and solunars for this weekend. On Saturday, we have a negative low tide and a negative 0.24 at 9:01 a.m. Then we have a high tide at 3:11 p.m. at a 1.32 foot. Then on Sunday, we have a low tide at 0.01 foot at 9:25 a.m. and a high tide at 1.475 or 1.47 at 3:32 p.m. So as you can see, there are pretty good moving tides through the weekend. Like I said, on this, I'm fishing the incoming tide. The tide has picked up a little bit. It's supposed to slow down. I'm in the major right now. I should be fishing, but I've caught a ton of fish. But when the major started, the fish just one right after the other. So let's go ahead and talk about the solunars for this weekend. On Saturday, we have a minor feeding time from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And we have a major feeding time from 2:10 p.m. to 4:10 p.m. And on Sunday, we have a minor feeding time from 9:03 a.m. to 10:03 a.m. And then a major feeding time from 2:56 p.m. to 4:56 p.m. Again, the weekend weather, it's going to be a little bumpy on Saturday, but not horrible. Sunday's supposed to be pretty decent. So it looks like it's going to be overall a decent weekend to get out on the water and fish. We do have that cool front coming through that is going to drop the temperature a little bit. Not horrible, not like it had been a couple weeks ago. So if you get a chance to go out and fish, I highly recommend it. The fishing right now on Thursday is on fire. But I think after this next week with those warm temperatures starting up, I think the bite's going to get even better. So with all that being said, let's get into the top catches for this week. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody that's been sending in pictures. We really appreciate it. If you send your pictures to info@tampabayfishingchannel.com, or you can message us through Facebook or YouTube, we will make sure that we get your pictures up there. On this first picture, we have Ray Canterbury, his wife, with a real nice sheep's head caught on a charter trip with Captain Christian Lugo. The next, we have Jerry Ann Atkins with a real nice sheep's head. Then we have Glenn Casale with a big flounder caught on his kayak, which is hard to catch in Tampa Bay. Flounder you can't go and target very much. And then last but not least, we have Rob Lavazza with a stud mangrove coming in at 26 inches. Well, folks, as you saw, the Friday fishing forecast, it looks like we got a slight front coming through. Gonna drop the temperature a little bit, but I still think the fishing's gonna be pretty good. And it looks like the following week, it looks like we're gonna have some high temperatures in the 80s. So I think we're all close to being in the full springtime run, which really changes a lot of stuff. But as you saw, it's gonna be, the tides are gonna be pretty decent, especially for inshore fishing. I'm fishing this slower incoming tide this afternoon on Thursday. So as soon as the bait's getting to the bottom, it's like I've been catching snapper and grouper. So it's pretty quick. But anyway, as I said earlier in the show, establishing a pattern is key. Understanding that, you know, using this type of jig sometimes will sit differently on the bottom and it will look different to those fish. The color doesn't really seem to matter. Well, it hasn't mattered. Every color I put down, I've been hit on. But the presentation, I threw down a Stewie jig and didn't even get a bite on it. So I went back to the Huggy and immediately started getting bites. I'm waiting for this tide to slow down a little bit. We're coming into the major in about 31 minutes. If it's any better than what I'm doing now, that's gonna be nuts. But what I'm doing is I'm taking these white bait and I'm hooking them right in the top of the head right there, and just dropping them straight down. And as soon as they're getting to the bottom, they're on it. one hit it like a freight train. That's, well, holy Jesus, look at the size of that snapper. They almost got me. I will take that all day, every day. Nice snapper. See, there's no reason for me to keep them if I'm not going to eat them fresh like tonight. I don't like to keep fish. That's me personally. Now when Chad's on the boat or other people and they want to keep fish and it's within the legal limit, I'm fine with it. And when I talk about taking the time to go find new spots, that's key. Is I didn't have this spot marked. I don't even think I have it marked on my machine. So I kind of accidentally ran up on it, and it's a long ledge and it's got some rocks and the bite's been fired. And we're not even in the major yet. We're closer. But I'm just using a 1 ounce Huggy. That's 95% of the time, that's what we use in the bay is 1 ounce. We get asked that question quite a bit about what size we like to use, and about 95% of the time we're using 1 ounce, but as soon as that tide slows down, I'll start dropping the weight. Man, that time I'm hung up. As you can see on the screen here, I'm sitting over some hard bottom and I've got a ledge that's a little bit off to my right. I've got 2 marks where I've gotten the beginning and the end of the ledge, but I'm not sitting on those marks. I'm actually sitting off those marks a little bit, but I am sitting over hard bottom and I am marking some fish. And as you can see, we're doing very well. So when you're out exploring, even if it looks a little different, stop and fish it, because you never know what's going to happen, because sometimes that little obscure spot will hold a lot of fish because they're not getting hit by a lot of people. So the most obvious spots are getting hit more, the less obvious spots are getting hit less. And I'm going to see if anything changes. I'm going to go up past the port today and drop down to see if I catch any fish, because the last few times I've gone up there and fished, I have not done well. Everything's been from the port out towards the Gulf and into the Gulf. So that's where I started today. I'm actually past the Skyway, working some areas past that, and then I'll work my way in and see if I can get any fish inside there. If not, then I know that there's something definitely wrong. I know inshore, the river, which typically holds a lot of fish this time of year, we don't even have snook at the dock right now. So I don't know what's going on with that aspect. I don't know what's going on with inshore because I don't fish it enough to have a good feel on it. But right now the bite is unbelievable out here. We're getting ready. We're about 9 minutes away from the start of the major, and we'll see what happens. But the bite's been stupid since we've been here. Again, thank you so much for the support. We really, really appreciate it. I can't say it enough. We've got a lot of things coming up. Matter of fact, we're going to be doing an offshore trip with Sunray Marine in the Stamus 40. We're going to be doing a video about the 31 Stamus. There's a reason for that. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the offshore trip that we're going to do with Stamus. But again, the bay right now, from the sky or from the port going out towards the Gulf, the bite's been unbelievable. Thanks for watching. Fish more, catch more, and we'll see you on the flip side.